This is Would Evie Drive It, a tiny little show on our channel where we let Evie judge the cars.
Would I drive a Honda Civic Si?
Fine, but first, information explosion!
Let's begin with emotion factor.
Are you moved by the style of the Honda Civic Si?
Inside and out, I am. I really like sporty looking cars, even though I myself am not a sporty driver. The wheels look awesome. I love the hood on the Honda Civic in the Si form and the regular form. I'm seeing a lot of great style on this one.
The Si, for those who don't know, is the sportier rendition, not the sportiest. The Type R is coming, and they've tried to make the exterior a little bit sportier. And on the inside, they've got this black and red motif.
The seats are red, which matches the rest of the interior really nicely. I love the little red details around the honeycomb. I love the red stitching. It is such a complete looking package.
So it sounds like you're having pretty positive feelings regarding style. How about how the Civic drives?
The Civic Si only comes in a stick shift, which for some of you is great. But for this out of practice driver, it's challenging me.
Yeah, with more time, you'd probably grow to appreciate it, but over the course of a short loan, it might be just a little bit befuddling for you. For me, I really like driving it. I think it's a great 6-speed manual, and I suspect this is the last generation of Civic Si that will be manual only, because that is a dying art. What about steering?
It does take a fair bit of effort, but it also feels very sure. It's confidence inspiring.
The steering ratio in all Civics is very quick, so you got speedy reactions from the steering, which gives it a sort of sporty, lively feel. I'm curious about ride quality, because the suspension in this thing is a little bit firmer dampers, firmer springs.
The ride quality seems great to me. I don't really have an issue with firmer riding vehicles.
It definitely rides more firmly than a standard Civic, but not uncomfortably so.
Not at all.
How about power? Is there enough?
There is plenty of power for my taste. I get up to 35 very quickly in this vehicle.
Yeah, we call that the Swedish speed. It's about as fast as you like to drive around here, but getting up there promptly is a fun thing for you.
Ooh, here we go, almost at 35, hooray!
Whoa!
Yes, I enjoy getting up to 35 quickly.
Ironically, it just says 34. You did not get to 35. By the way, do me a favor. You're in, go to third gear.
Okay.
Okay, and now downshift to second.
It gets louder.
Yeah, so that's how engines work. But there's a rev match feature. When you go from third gear to second gear, the revs have to go higher, and then rather than having to do that manually, the Civic does that automatically for you. Is that making your drive any easier?
I do appreciate that, since I'm so out of practice.
I guess my last question, how's visibility?
Visibility is pretty standard.
With the Honda Civic, Honda worked hard to improve forward visibility, so you might notice that the A-pillars are fairly thin, and they actually terminate a little bit closer to you. Yeah, the view forward is pretty good.
I do appreciate that, especially through long, winding corners.
Which is every corner here. So are you feeling an emotion driving the Honda Civic Si?
Absolutely. From the driving experience to the exterior to the interior, there's a lot of emotional levers being pulled.
Cool. Evie's feeling an emotion.
But is it family friendly?
Kicking off family friendliness, let's talk about size.
This is smaller than a lot of the SUVs we drive, but I didn't find it off-puttingly small.
We almost hit a squirrel, but it's okay. It was running at the car, which I thought was a very bold move for that squirrel.
Maybe it thought it could take us.
I got this, guys. Yeah, so it is smaller, but I will say that for my average physique, I fit very well in the rear seats. Plenty of headroom. With the front seat in your ideal position, ample legroom. But even with it in my position, there's still plenty to work with. It's very roomy for a compact car.
And the cargo area seemed plenty roomy for everything we needed this week. I like that there are releases in the rear and that it's a 60/40 sporty split.
Run, Quail, run! I'm starting to think that the animal's not the problem. This one's just still going. There we go.
Okay.
Yay, yay.
Woo.
Pro tip, Quails, if a car's coming at you, go laterally. Cargo space is 14.1 cubic feet, which compared to many of the SUVs we drive is much, much smaller, but I think it's still a pretty workable amount of space back there.
Agreed.
As for safety, the NHTSA rates the Honda Civic Si, and along with the other Civics, 5 stars overall. I noticed the Si is a 4-star for the front passenger impact, but overall 5 stars, so very safe vehicle. And then the active safety side is very strong. So there's the Honda Sensing suite of active driver assist, automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist. Blind spot warning also comes standard, which is super cool. And then if you do wind up plowing into the invincible chipmunk or whatever you're going to wind up doing, there are 10 airbags, including knee airbags for driver and front passenger, and rear side airbags. And it's kind of crazy that all of that stuff is standard. So very, very safe. This is a little bit of a tough one. By size, it's small, but very, very safe and still pretty practical. What do we think? Is this thing family friendly?
For a small family, yes.
Small family friendly.
But is it mountain friendly?
I think this will be an easy segment. The Honda Civic is front-wheel drive only. The Si sits a little bit lower than a normal Civic. And this one in particular that we're driving is running on summer tires. What do we think? Is the Honda Civic Si mountain friendly?
No.
You could live in the mountains and drive a Honda Civic Si, but its natural state does not make that process any easier. By the way, I'm going to mention that we are running on summer tires, and super scrutinizing folks who looked at the information explosion and were like, wait a second, that should be $200 higher. It probably should be, but our window sticker was wrong. Whatever, you can get summer tires for $200. And now time for my favorite segment.
Sweetie potpourri.
Diving into the potpourri, infotainment. We have a standard 9-inch screen. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone integration both come standard, and both are wireless. How do you find this interface?
I found it very simple to use. The icons are labeled by color, which is always helpful. There's a physical knob and a couple of buttons. Most of it is operated through the touch screen, but I found it well organized enough to be simple to use.
Now, normally I wouldn't do this, but okay, I want to show you 2 things. Number one, the Civic Si can actually be driven quickly, which is kind of fun.
Hey, cool!
It is actually a ton of fun to drive, and I feel like the steering response is great. It's speedy, but not nervous. The brakes feel great. I really enjoy driving this thing, but what I wanted to show you is that we've got 2 different drive modes. Okay, so normal mode, and then I'm going to go back down, put it in sport mode. There's a little extra noise, it seems, when we're in sport mode. I believe that is a system that on-screen text will remind me the name of because I'm failing it right now. But basically, the Civic Si uses the audio system to pump in a little artificial noise to give you more of a sporty vibe when you're driving in sport mode. It doesn't have like an active exhaust or anything like that. So sport mode does more than just heavy up the steering. It also gives you a little bit more responsiveness from the powertrain and a little bit more fake noise. But here's the thing, unless you're really, really thinking about that fakeness, I think most people would not have any idea that there's anything unrealistic happening.
It's like all sound effects on television.
I don't know what an elephant sounds like when it's stepping, but that seems right. Yeah. Is that a pretty good dinosaur? Yay. While I'm sitting over here in the driver's seat, I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor for this video, Flying Eyes Sunglasses. I'm wearing the Kestrels right now, kind of aviator style frame, but I love them. They are so durable. You can bend them, and they fit really, really well because of these super thin temples underneath the headset, and they're so lightweight. They're really comfortable during my day-to-day. Evie wears them with her prescription day in, day out, and just they're super, super comfortable. So if you're ready to upgrade to aviation grade eyewear, click the link in the description below. Use the promo code Micah for 10% off. Flying Eyes. And now Sweetie gets to drive again. It's pretty interesting how the different drive modes work. So, but yeah, if you want to be a little bit sportier, try sport mode. How do you find the seats in terms of seat comfort?
So they hold you pretty well. There's a little bit of light bolstering, which I think makes a lot of sense on a vehicle like this.
I would go further than light bolstering and just say that it comes out far enough that you really can't go too far one direction or the other. But sometimes when you have a seat that's very supportive, laterally, it can be a little uncomfortable. Do you think you can do a long drive in these things and be okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about fuel economy, which is a hot topic right now, here is how the Civic Si rates versus some of its key competitors also equipped with manual transmissions. Sweetie, can I give you a trim recommendation?
Oh, yes, you can.
It's easy with the Si because it's basically a mono spec. So keyless access with push button starts, automatic climate control, 12-speaker Bose audio system. There's also the 9-inch infotainment setup. It's all the essentials you'd want in a modern vehicle for that base price. One thing you cannot get on the Civic Si though is heated front seats, and that's something we've really grown used to living in the mountains. So that might be one reason why you might choose, let's say, a Honda Civic EX versus the Si, though you'd have to deal with a little less power. As for the competitive set, we have the Volkswagen GTi, the Subaru WRX is another one. They have all-wheel drive and a lot more power than the Si. The Hyundai Elantra N-Line, by power, it matches up very well with the Civic Si. But I couldn't find it on the Hyundai website, and I couldn't find a definitive answer as to whether or not it had been canceled. Very weird. I will say that there's also the Hyundai Elantra N, not N-Line, but N, that's an even more powerful one, and I've driven that one at Sonoma Raceway, and it is a very fun car. More expensive than the Civic Si, but also much quicker.
Speaking of more expensive, why not just get a Civic Type R?
Yeah, there is a new Type R coming, certainly a much more expensive proposition than the Si that we have here, but if you got the money and you got the access, get that Type R, whatever it is. In total, if you're looking at the competitive set, you can find options that are cheaper or more powerful, but the Civic is really well-rounded, and there are some people who like that kind of thing. People like me. By the way, if you're curious about our review of the standard Honda Civic, you can click up here. We did a Would Evie Drive It with that, and we have some thoughts. All right, I think we've covered the bases. The only question that remains, would Evie drive it? Evie, yes, no, maybe so. Would you drive a Honda Civic Si?
Sadly, no. I do like the way it drives. I love the way it looks inside and out. But my skill set as a manual driver is seriously lacking, and it's not mountain friendly, which since I live in the mountains, it's kind of not a good choice. So
some other version of Evie would be happy to drive this thing, or maybe
yes.
Evie in the future when we've got just a fleet of cars. Some are winter time and some are not.
That sounds pretty cool.
What do you think? Is Evie crazy for denying the Honda Civic Si? If so, tell us in the comment section, or if not, you can tell us that too. If you'd like to see more of these kinds of videos where we review cars as a family, feel free to subscribe. If you're curious what we're doing between YouTube videos, you can give us a follow over on Instagram. I think we've pretty well covered the Civic Si. All that remains is the awkward goodbye.
See you later.